Now first open up Premiere Pro, it will bring you to this page. Now to start a project, just go to the top left of the screen and click on the Create Project button. Now it will bring you to this page. Now on the top left is a project name. This is where you will name your project and the file you're going to save later on. Next to it is the project location. This is the directory file of where your project and your exported file would go to when you export the video. Now below here are all the clips that are in that you will select to be used in the project. Don't worry about missing out some clips. You can always import them later on. So for now, I will select these 3 clips that I'm going to use. Now once you selected all your clips that you need to use in your video, let's go to the bottom right and click Create. Now this will bring you to the workstation of your project. This is where everything will happen, where you manage your clips and timeline and all that stuff. Now in case that you realize that you're missing some clips, you can always import them in using this panel too. Go ahead and right click the panel and go to the import setting. And once you click that, go and select all the files that you need to import and click open, and it will bring all the clips, video, audio, or even effects that you need for your video. Now to begin, I recommend you guys create your folders to keep your work desk organized. To do that, head over to this panel and right click and click new bin. It will create a new folder that you can name to store all your clips and other effects or audio that you need. So usually I like to do clips, audio, and effects. So yep, here I'll drag all these clips into the clip folder, and yeah. Next, I'll teach you about creating a new sequence. A new sequence is basically the main timeline that you're going to use. The first thing you're going to do is right click, go to new item, and click the sequence. This will open up the new sequence window. Now it's always important to check your settings for before continuing. To do that, click on the settings tab, and there's 2 components that you need to take note of: the time base and frame size. Time base is your FPS or frames per second, and frame size is your aspect ratio. Now you need to decide on what kind of FPS and aspect ratio you need before continuing. Normally we do 16:9 aspect ratio and 30 frames per second, but it all really depends on the clips that you're going to use. So for me, I'm going to use 30 frames per second. Now that's for vertical, but if you want to do a horizontal video, you can always change inverse the number, and it will give you the horizontal video. And once you're done with everything, click OK. Now, to begin making a video, all we're gonna do is drag and drop our clips into the timeline. As you can see, this will give you 2 bars, one on the upper row and one on the lower row. The one on top is the visual component of your clips, and the one below is only the audio component. Now as you can see, wherever the time cursor is, it will display it on the preview screen. And if you move the clip ahead, it will display the start of the clip again. Now let's say I want to split the audio and visual component apart. To do that, all you gotta do is select the clip you want and right click, and go ahead and click on the unlink button. This will make the 2 visual and audio components independent of each other. Now let's say I want to split the video into 2. You can accomplish this by bringing the time cursor to the frame you want to cut and pressing Ctrl K. Now you get 2 independent clips instead. And if you only want the front portion, you can delete the second portion. Now let's try putting a second clip into our timeline. Let's see what happens when we play the video. As you can see, the second clip is stacked on top of the first clip. Now this means that each other row is just a layer in a sense, where the most top row will be the most top layer. So if you want multiple images into your video, you can always stack them on top of each other and display multiple visuals at one time. This works the same for audio as well. But it's a lot hard to tell for audio since there's no visual component. The next thing I will teach is how to add text to your video. Now to do that, you guys go to press the text icon on the left here, the T-shaped icon. When you press it, just draw on the preview window where you want to put your text and type in the word you want. So for example, I'll type in spring break. As you can see, it produces another element into your timeline, and here is the pink icon. Here is your text element. Now this is the same thing. You can manipulate the same way as a visual element, where you can drag and drop the layers, or you can even extend or shorten the duration of the text appearing in your preview. You can even cut it in two and make it disappear and reappear whenever you want. Now, if you want to change the font, the color, or the font size of the text, all you gotta do is select the text, go to your effects control on the right here, and go to the text bar right here and click on the small arrow. This will allow you to choose all the options you can do on the text. You can change the fonts, the size, justification, capitalize all the letters, or even change the color, the strokes, or even give it a background. Now there's a lot of options here, so you can take your time and do try to customize or play around with the bars. To use the end effect, just drag and drop it onto the clip you want. For example, I'll be using a blur effect on this clip. To customize the effect, head to the effects control. If you don't see it, just go to window option and check it. For blur, you can change the strength of the blur, and for any other effects, they have their own different parameters. Like for magnify, you can change the size of the zoom and the position of the zoom. Now for transitions, it's about the same, except you need to drag the transitions to the edge of the clip instead. Just like effects, you can customize the transitions any way you want. For example, increasing the duration, reversing, when does it start, and anything else available here. Next is all about lighting. Lighting in your video is very, very important, because since shooting a video and recording a video might not always give you the same light, as the time of day might change or your camera setting might change in between shots. So lighting between clips is very inconsistent. Now to fix that, all we can do is select the clip we want to edit and click up here, luminosity color. Now in this panel, it will show you all the options for lighting effects that you can do. So something I recommend you to take note of is exposure and contrast. Let's say your clip is very, very dark, and you want to brighten up the clip. All you gotta do is move the exposure to the right and contrast to the right, and this will give you a much brighter video. Now if your video is too bright, for example it's an outdoor video, and want to lower the lighting, you gotta move it to the left side where it will darken the video. As you can see, there's a bunch of other sliders you can mess with. So I advise you to just play around with the sliders and see what you think will give you the best image quality that you can produce. As there's not really a right or wrong answer to this kind of stuff. It's just all based on feelings. Next, I'll teach you about temperature. Now, let's say if you want to set a mood for your video, let's say you want to make a dark, gloomy mood, you can change your temperature setting to the more bluer tint and this will tint your video blue to give you a more of a moody theme to your video. If you want to do the opposite, you can slide it to the right where it give you a orange tint, where it's more of a happy and joyful color mood video that you produce. And you can do the same thing in the tint below, your green and violet color, where putting the green will give you a greener tint. Now this is usually used for outside videos, outside clips, or on the right is the violet color, where it's usually used in a darker environment where you want to show off your light exposure. Like for example, you got a neon light and you want to make it more prominent of a color, and like it will encompass the entire room, you would use violet. Now saturation. Saturation is quite useful. For example, if you move it all the way to the max, it will bring a much vibrant color into your video. It will highlight the color contrast between each object in your video. While if you bring it all the way down to 0, it will make it a more black and white video. And yes, that's all for the basic tutorial. Next part will be about advanced technique. Moving on to more advanced technique. The first thing I'll teach is keyframes. Almost every parameter has keyframing. To start, select the clip you want to add keyframes, then go to your effect control panel. As you can see, next to all the parameters, there are these clock icons. This means that you can keyframe them. For today, I'll only use location and scale. First, position your clips to the starting position you want. Then, click on the clock icon for both clips. Then, play your preview video until the end frame of your animation. Double-click on the item in the preview window and drag it to the position you want. You can also just use a slider in the panel setting like this. And that's the basic of keyframing. Now, as you can see, when you play the video, the item will move along the path that we had dragged and decrease in size. Now, here's some tips. If you want the keyframe to be faster, pull the starting position closer to the end position. If you want it to move and stop for a few seconds, add more keyframe position in the timeline. If you want a gradual speed up or slow down, change the velocity by clicking this arrow and change the gradient of the curve. The next technique is blending mode. Now let's say you want to add a filter or overlay on top of your video. To do that, first drag the stock video on top of the clip. Then go to the effects control. Under the opacity setting, you will see the different blend modes. Most of the time, you will only use these three basics: multiply, screen, and overlay. For multiply, it will remove all the white parts of your clip. For screen, it will remove all the black parts and leave the bright parts. For overlay, it will keep the image but make it more see-through. Next is masking. Masking is a very powerful tool and has many applications. Today, I'll show you two general ways to mask: mask through and masking effect. First is mask through. The purpose of this technique is to only show certain part of the clips. This means that you can have two simultaneous clips playing at once. First, select the clip you want to cut up and go to the effects control. In the opacity setting, click the pen icon. This will let you draw in the preview window like this. Now let's draw a box. Once done, you will see that everything outside the box has disappeared, only leaving the box contents. If you want the opposite, just go and click the inverse button. Now when we play the video, we can see that both clips is being previewed at once. This can have many applications. Be as creative as you can with this technique. Now next is masking effect. This is when you only want to add an effect on a certain part of the video. For example, if you only want to highlight this object here, we will first duplicate the scene by holding Alt and dragging the clip up a row. Then we select the clip and draw the area around the object. Then all we have to do is drag and drop the effects we want to put into the area, like this. As you can see, now the area we selected is highlighted. The same as before, there is many different applications for this. So take your time and experiment with them as much as possible. Something I came up with is blinking lights. We can also blur face and maybe do some face swapping. And that's the end of the advanced technique. Hope you guys have fun learning Premiere Pro, and good luck for DTI.